What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Last month was January, so you know what that means. I watched another 10 movies made in Japan by a Japanese production crew, and that was my Japanuary for the year. So I'm going to rank the 10 movies that I watched. I normally don't do rankings or any order of any kind, but this time, to start with kind of the weaker ones, go towards ones I liked more. So without further ado, let's get into it. Number 10, we had Ocean Waves. Now, this was a Studio Ghibli feature that I'd never heard about, but popped up on my recommended, and I gave it a shot. The story's okay, I suppose. The characters are pretty unlikable all around. They want you to root for these two characters to end up together, and you really don't feel either way strongly whether or not they should. Which is definitely something you don't want in a rom-com, essentially. Next up, we had Terror of Mechagodzilla. Now, this is the last Showa-era Godzilla film, directed by Ishiro Honda, who made the first one in '54. So this was kind of a return to form for him, but it performed poorly. They kind of put Godzilla on hold until the next era. I watched this one because this was the last one of the Showa era that I hadn't seen, so went ahead and rounded it out. Now I've seen all of them, and I can kind of compare and contrast. Definitely had some strong elements. Love the story, love the characters. Of course, Godzilla and Mechagodzilla are two of the best kaiju of all time, so it was fun to see them duke it out again. But overall, not the strongest entry in the franchise. Solid note to end the era, though. Next up, you had Yakuza Like a Dragon, originally known as Like a Dragon the Movie. This one was directed by Takashi Miike, an interesting choice for director and subject material, of course. Now, I've played through most of the mainline Yakuza games. You don't really have to enjoy this movie. I think it's pretty wild and over the top, kind of what you would expect from this director. But it definitely helps if you've played at least the first game, because this came out right after that one. So it's kind of a wacky action drama. Not for everybody, definitely, but I found it pretty enjoyable. For number 7, we had Lady Snowblood. As soon as I started watching this, I thought of Kill Bill, and I didn't realize it until I looked it up later. Yeah, this was actually a huge inspiration for that film. So this one's basically just a solid revenge action film, very stylized. I didn't love all of it, but I did appreciate the work and artistry that went into the film. Next up, you had The Hidden Fortress, one of Akira Kurosawa's classics that's often compared to Star Wars. I see the comparisons. I didn't love the film. I've seen a few of his other films. There's still a couple I need to watch, but I chose this one because this one probably gets the most talked about. The things I didn't love about it, well, let's start with the Star Wars comparisons, right? So, take A New Hope, but both the droids are C-3PO, and the little section where they're on Tatooine getting pursued by the Jawas is like the whole first third of the movie. That's kind of what this is. So if you're into that kind of, back and forth comedic banter, I got kind of sick of it after a while. Once the action picks up towards the second act, it gets a lot more enjoyable, but it's kind of a build up to get to that, and it's not fun for everybody. Hot take, but this is one of his weaker films for me. Next up, we have Pulse, a J-horror film that was later remade into an American version through some pretty scummy means. They used to just find these J-horror movies in the early 2000s and think, why don't we do that and make all the money so nobody sees the original Japanese versions? I saw the American version before I watched this one, and it wasn't great. But this one is a masterclass in building atmosphere, building sheer dread, really. Great J-horror icon. I can see why it gets talked about a lot. Definitely recommend if you're into that sort of thing. For number 4, we had Only Yesterday, another Ghibli film, but from a different director. This is an example of drama done right. The animation is a little bit more hyper-realistic than you're used to with the Ghibli films. Usually you can go back and watch any from the 80s or 90s. They have a similar style, especially the ones directed by Miyazaki. But with this director, they went for kind of a more realistic approach to highlight facial subtleties you don't get in most animations. And it's a little off-putting at first, but once you get used to it, I think it brings out another layer of character interaction that you wouldn't normally get just through traditional animation. This was a great story through and through. It's based on a manga. It was about the adolescent life of the main character, and then for the movie, they had this thing where they kind of go back and forth between the present day and the past, and how certain events in the main character's life relate to what she's currently experiencing. And it's just very relatable. Even if you didn't grow up in the situation that she was in, or if you didn't have the exact experiences, you really feel it. And it's something else, honestly. Number 3, I watched Shoplifters. This is a hard watch. They do a really good job kind of distracting you with the cover, the poster, whatever. It looks really happy, really quaint. You see a family, you think, oh, this is going to be a great family comedy. Maybe a little bit of drama, but it's about a family. It'll be happy. But this one takes a lot of dark turns, surprisingly. It really makes you ask, what makes a family, and what you would do for family, or who you consider to be your family, and if it's worth it in the end. At number 2 on this list, I put Drive My Car. This one is another film that I don't think is for everybody. It's got a great story. It's long. It's about 3 hours long. But you can kind of separate, it's almost like a prologue for the first half hour to 40 minutes, and then you get into the real story. I think there's a title drop right after the kind of prologue buildup of events. But it's overall, it's just one story about this guy and his car, and it's kind of secondary, but the car really is a character. I want one of these Saab 900 turbos. It made me want one of these cars. And finally, the top film on this list for this year's Japanuary was Porco Rosso. Yet another Ghibli, this time directed by Hayao Miyazaki. And this was, I believe, the only Miyazaki film I hadn't seen, at least as far as his Ghibli days go. And this one really surprised me. I thought I'd seen everything. I've seen him do planes. I've seen him do Europe. War bad, that kind of commentary. This one was just all around a great story, really well developed characters, beautiful imagery. I love planes, love seeing Miyazaki do his thing with, planes and wars, and it's kind of funny because he always talks about war being bad, but there's some of the best animation he does is during wartime or battles or raids. The shot at the beginning where they introduce Porco Rosso, the main character, is he's stopping a group of pirates, aerial pirates, of course, from doing a raid on a cruise ship of some kind. It's just a fantastic scene, fantastic character. Michael Keaton does a great job voicing the role. I saw the dubbed version. It's a fantastic time all around. Definitely recommend if you haven't gotten around to seeing that one. Well, there you have it, folks. Those are the 10 films I watched this year for Japanuary, in order from least to most enjoyable, at least for me. I would definitely recommend adding these ones to your roster for next year if you want to do the Japanuary thing, or if you just want to watch them, if you're in the mood for a nice international film. If you want to see the full reviews for all these movies, I say full reviews, but some of them I just do like a sentence or two because that's kind of what came to me for them. Check out my Letterboxd. Please check out my Duran Duran deep dive video if you haven't already. And of course, check out the album I released at the end of last year. Means a lot to me. Really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I'm Bruce Brad.